Hello friends and family within the Scottish games industry and further afield. You're listening to News Game Plus with me, Ryan. As always, we'll be recapping everything that our parent website, the Scottish Games Network, has been reporting on over the past 7 days and asking you what you think. Without further ado, let's get started with this week's stories. Kicking us off, we have Amicable Animals Solas 128 received an accessibility update to coincide with the Global Accessibility Awareness Day, updating the PC and Switch versions of the game with settings that improve the experience for players with visual impairment, colour blindness, and physical disabilities. Visually impaired players will now be able to adjust a range of settings. Users will be able to adjust or even switch off the game's bloom and glow effects, as well as the colour distortion / chromatic aberration settings surrounding border pattern and visual distortion effects, allowing gamers to tailor the game's visuals in order to create the most comfortable and enjoyable experience for them. Alternate control systems are also now available for anyone playing Solas 128, increasing accessibility for players with physical disabilities. The first alternate control system removes the requirement to click and hold a button while dragging. The game now allows players to click once and pick up an object, and click again to drop it. Another new option allows directional keys, or the D-pad for the Switch, to snap the cursor onto a grid rather than smooth scrolling. With this system, the player can also press buttons to move between tiles, or hold it down to keep moving. Finally, players can navigate to select important pieces with the next and previous piece option. You can find Solas 128 on Steam and on the Nintendo Switch online store. The Scottish Games Developers Association, or SGDA, held a series of micro-talks this week with a number of games industry professionals discussing a range of topics. Kicking off the talks, Carrie Waterton, UX designer at Puny Astronaut, presented 10 reasons why you should make a board game at your next game jam. Following that up, another member of the Puny Astronaut team, 3D animator Erin Stevenson, presented NDAs and personal projects. Abertay lecturer Gaz Robertson was up next with Becoming Magnificent, Playing with Hype. And finally, Nick Barrett, CEO of Proper QA, presented Top 5 Things that Developers Get Wrong When Thinking About QA. After last year's event was cancelled, the SGDA are back in full swing, and Team SGN look forward to seeing what they do next. ChanginDay, a Glasgow-based startup, has raised more than £670,000 to create virtual reality games for autistic people. The investment came from Scottish Enterprise alongside a number of private investors. The funding will enable the studio to develop its first game aimed at autistic gamers. The title is scheduled to release next year, with the company taking advantage of the new generation of untethered, low-cost VR headsets, such as the Oculus Quest 2. ChanginDay works closely with autistic people and supporting organisations to ensure that their games are focused on benefits to autistic players. The company is also aiming to employ autistic people whenever possible. Company founders Alison Lang, CEO, and Nick Lang, creative director, whose daughter Natasha is autistic, are building a game to help those on the autistic spectrum feel more comfortable and confident in everyday situations that they can find challenging. Indie developer Cobra of Stormcloud Games has started a petition to add the Scots and Gaelic languages to Steam. Currently, the two languages are not recognised by the Valve-owned online store. Due to this, developers wishing to list their game as Gaelic or Scots cannot. This is something Cobra discovered when trying to list their latest project, Operation Pink Eye, on Steam. Cobra's driving force as a developer is to promote Scots and Gaelic games, something that is pretty difficult to do when the biggest storefront in the business doesn't support either language. After contacting Valve, Cobra was told that the company has no plans to add Gaelic or Scots as recognised languages at this time. In response, the indie dev has started an online petition, a link to which can be found in the show notes. As for Operation Pink Eye, it is currently available on itch.io, and for more information on the title, we covered it a couple of weeks ago in the show. Who doesn't love a shameless plug? Before we start to wrap things up, we always like to end the show by highlighting something involved in the Scottish games sector that we think needs more attention. This is a segment we like to call the Weekly Shoutout. If you have any suggestions for people or projects that you think we should promote, let us know via our socials or send me an email. That being said, this week's shout out goes to the newest member of Team SGN, Duncan Robertson. He's done some really cool work before joining us, working on his own YouTube channel, Game Coping, as well as other projects. I'd like to take this opportunity to publicly welcome Duncan to the team and ask if you guys watching could do the same. After all, we strive for SGN to be an accepting and inclusive community, so please make Duncan feel welcome. Links to both his YouTube channel and Twitter will be in the show notes below. That does it for this week's News Game Plus. What did you think about this week's stories? Let us know in the comments, on our social media channels, or if you prefer a more personal touch, send me a wee email. Scottish Games Network loves hearing your opinions on the stories we report on, and it's always nice to chat with you all. Unfortunately, that's our show over for this week. If you liked what you heard, please consider following or subscribing, depending on your platform, and if possible, give us a like or a review, it really helps us out. And as always, I could tell you to follow on socials and share us with your friends, but everyone tells you that, you already know it. Anyways, thank you ever so much for listening. This has been News Game Plus. I've been your host Ryan, and you, pal, have been awesome. Thanks again, and I look forward to speaking to you same time, same place, next week.